Preparing a battlefield for a game of 40k can feel like an afterthought. You spend all week reading your rules, making an army list, and painting your models, and then finally, when it comes down to the game, you slap together a board in 5 minutes and roll for deployments. And because of that, the game doesn't live up to your expectations. 40k is a game, but it's also a battle simulator. It's basically a role-playing game. It's a bird's eye view of a battle taking place across the world of Warhammer 40,000. And typically, I've just been setting up the appropriately sized and shaped terrain, which is fine, but it could be so much better. I want to take the time to give this important part of the game the attention it deserves. I have some ideas to spice it up. Some of them are going to be a little bit of work, but some of them are going to be super easy. Step 1 is going to be replacing this cardboard terrain with some of our own. This is our terrain for the month of September. We here at EonsOfBattle are diving back into 40k in a big way, and we wanted to make some terrain that would capture the size and scope of Warhammer 40k and really fill out a board. A Gothic administratum, a cathedral where information is delivered, processed, and sent out to the forces, territories, and planets of the Empire. This terrain is going to be the rock upon which I build my 40k career. But first, I have to paint it. Now typically I would rattle can a big terrain project like this and then start to airbrush it and get it all absolutely perfect, but there is physically too much stuff, and I bet I can get a lot of mileage out of the good old-fashioned rattle can. Another thing I've noticed as of late is my terrain has been a little bit too dark, and I think it's because I start with a black prime. So now I'm gonna try a dark gray primer and see if that helps. This is an absolutely lovely color and is very similar to the Sweatshirts Fast Navy Gray resin that this is all printed out of. Sweatshirts resin makes the very best 3D printing resin, and if you want to give it a try for yourself, you can follow the link in the description below and use our code to get 8% off. I'm being too timid, I just gotta go for it. Just get it all base coated. It's already so much brighter than it would be if I painted it black. Now for a zenithal. Oh, I broke it. This kind of tannish color will add a good amount of warmth to this zenithal. Been really excited to try this out. It never looks as good as the cap, but hopefully it is a lovely gold. That is pretty darn gold. I might make some more things gold. That is a nice gold. Now for the flooring, I have magenta. The spray paint was definitely useful and it went on really quick. A little bit hard to control, but man, do I love that gold. But I think it's time to get a little bit more precise. The spray paint didn't do everything I hoped it would do, but it did give me a very nice base to work up from. Now I'm gonna knock out the trees to give myself a nice easy win. These trees were once the symbol of Imperial benevolence, an absolute treat for the Imperial civilians, an absolute decadence in a hive world. Trees. Almost immediately ruined once the battle began. These trees are in rough shape. The spray paint gave me some very basic values, and I want to push these even further. I sprayed some brown over the trunks of the trees, not hitting everywhere like I would if I was base coating, I just wanted tinted brown. Then I moved on to the bricks. I brightened them up with a dusting of white paint, and on random bricks I gave a little extra squirt to make some extra bright spots to add variety. Then I filled in the space in between the tree and the bricks with some gray paint. I'm trying not to use black as much as I can. I want that ruined rubble battlefield look, but I don't want everything just to be really dark. Then I sprayed a gloss paint over the bricks. I was debating on exactly how I want to wash the terrain, and I have decided on oils. I got out a black, brown, and yellow. These three colors will let me finish the trees. I spread these colors out on some tinfoil. I used to use a glass palette for oil paints, but it took too long to clean. With tinfoil, I can just throw it away when I'm done. And oil painting is really, really messy, so I gloved up. I spread the black over the bricks and over the base of the tree. I applied it pretty thick so the paint was nice and sticky. Then I wiped it away immediately with a paper towel to get 90% of the paint off, and then I switched to a makeup sponge to get it perfect. Then I moved up the tree, putting on some brown paint, and on the top of the branches, I applied a yellow paint. And then when I wiped it off, the brown and yellow blended together and gave me a lovely looking tree. I've been slowly learning my way around oil painting, and one thing I've discovered is texture is very important. You can take oil paint and put it right over acrylics and it won't damage them, but usually acrylic paint has a matte finish and that creates a grit that the oil likes to grab onto. For these trees, I gloss coated the brick so that they would wipe nice and clean, but I didn't gloss coat the trees so that the paint and the color would actually stick to it a little better. And it worked out pretty good and gave me some nice quick trees. And hopefully oil paint will continue to be quick because now it is time for all of these buildings. And on the flooring, I made the magenta more vibrant with some airbrushing of a more saturated color. And I mixed this color with white paint and I did some dry brushing. This brought out all the details in the sculpt and made the flooring look much more dynamic. It does look a little too clean though, so after a quick airbrushing of gloss varnish, I took the black oil wash I used on the trees and then put this over the base. Rubbing it on nice and thick, squishing it into all the cracks and then wiping it away. I lightened up the buildings with some white paint sprayed from above to catch in the most raised portions, and then I picked out all the little spots of gold that were too small for the rattle can to paint effectively. I used a brown to accent all the exposed rebar and the ruined walls, first with the airbrush and then going back over it with the dry brushing of metallic silver. I also used this metallic over the skeleton of Justice. Then I clear coated this whole terrain set in a nice thick coat of gloss paint to get it ready for the oil wash to come. It is possible to airbrush oil paint safely, but do not thin the oil paint with mineral spirits or odorless thinner. You have to use linseed oil and work in a well-ventilated environment with a mask. The airbrush let me quickly blast on the black paint, which I then wiped clean with tissues, which are soft enough to squeeze into the terrain and wipe most of the oil off. And then I went in with a makeup sponge to do the last perfect cleaning. This was so much more fun than a classic acrylic wash because I get to make a lot of decisions. Which spots do I leave all grim and dark and which spots do I clean 100%? It lets me draw attention to my favorite spots on the terrain and give me nice dark harsh shadows. Because the oil paint was so thin, it was mostly dry after leaving it overnight. I dry brushed some white acrylic paint over top and this went really well. With the oil still being slightly wet, the acrylic and oil paint mixed together ever so slightly. And the oils absorbed into the bristles and kept them appropriately damp. These walls turned out excellent. I was having a little bit too much fun on the walls and I completely forgot about the grim dark data cubicles. These got an oil wash, but I forgot to wipe it away before it dried. I'm just gonna call it a black prime and move right along. I dry brushed gold on top to give it a nice regal importance, and then I airbrushed white over the parchments. Then I used a gray paint to make some wiggles across the page to make it look like it was covered in text. There is no 5G internet in the grim darkness of the far future, only analog. A worker must read and then dictate a message in order to bounce that information down the chain of command. These data cubicles and skeleton of Justice statue add a really nice narrative element to this battlefield. This is some really big terrain. And it's just about done. The only thing left is the transparent parts. Nothing shows the absolute duality of church and state in the grim darkness of the far future more than the blending of religious iconography into every single imperial item. Case in point, stained glass in an administrative building. I used a piece of cork to sponge on gold paint for all the soldering details and then some transparent ink to tint the stained glass, all working on top of clear resin. On the characters in the window, the little imperialises, I used opaque colors so that they stand out stronger, and then I slid the piece into position. This is an example of an intact window. Also on this board are some destroyed windows with just a little bit of their original brilliance showing through. With this terrain, I'm gonna be able to block line of sight from Imperial Knights. And now it's time to see what it looks like on the tabletop. Oh yeah, this is already a big improvement. To be honest, this isn't my favorite of our gaming mats. It's really more of a D&D grid than a wargaming mat, but with the terrain painted up to match, it's really starting to look the part. To be fair though, all I've done here is I've replaced one set of terrain with another set of terrain. It's still missing something. It feels a little two-dimensional. Well, it's literally three-dimensional, but you guys know what I'm talking about. It needs a little something and I know just what that is, but it's gonna require a road trip. Art supply stores are one of the foundational pillars of the hobby. They're full of all sorts of crafting essentials. I come here all the time to stock up on the tools I use every day, like inks, but if you look a little harder, there's tons of materials that can be useful too. Now, scattered terrain usually means like barrels and buckets and crates, but really, it should be scatterable degree, something that can really kind of fill in all the little gaps on the table. And I found all this lovely stuff at the arts and crafts store and the pet store, and it doesn't quite look like scale material now, but if I paint it using the same colors that I used on the rest of the terrain, I think it'll look the part. I got some little river rocks, some crunchier, bigger broken rocks. I've got some broken glass, and this stuff, some big tumbled pieces of broken glass. I don't really want these pieces. Let's see how it takes to spray paint. Maybe a little bit of black paint. I think this is working really well. The black paint adds a little bit of variety. There's still some crumbs of the original colors showing through, but I think it looks pretty good. And then this white spray paint is really spitty and not working out too good, but it might be perfect for this. Yeah, I am liking that a lot. I really like how that looks. It looks like proper battlefield debris, and the absolute cherry on top is going to be adding in the rest of this broken glass. Ah, look at that rubble. That is some good looking rubble. Oh, I can't wait to see what this looks like on the board. Oh, Martha Stewart, eat your heart out. I've got some rubble. Ooh. Here we go. Few things are quite as satisfying as making a big old mess. And this should be very, very easy to clean up because I can just take the mat, and when I'm about to put it away, I can just kind of roll it up and roll the rocks up with it and then pour it right back into the bucket. This is blending it in so nicely. These rocks are the sort of detail that would sometimes be painted into the mat. But since it's not, I can add them. And because they're real, they look so much better, so much more convincing. These are lifelike rocks because they're literally rocks. Oh, it's so simple. It's just a little bit of spray paint and some fish tank pebbles, but man, does it really add something. And speaking of some things, this board is still missing one little thing. But luckily, I have all the supplies to make it happen. While I was at the arts and crafts store, I picked up some Halloween tea lights, and I also bought a pillow. Some of you know exactly where I'm going with this, and some of you are very confused. I gutted the pillow because I'll be using the batting to make some scale fires. I took some wire, wrapped it around the handle of a dry brush, and then squished it onto a stick. Then I glued this contraption onto a Halloween-themed tea light, which also just so happens to be orange glitter, the perfect thing to go inside my explosion. I took the fluff and mushed it into a cone shape and then stuck it over the wire. The wire is there to give me something to hold on to. I put hot glue over the base of the tea light and then carefully pressed down the fuzz, squishing it into the hot glue and binding it to the candle. It is quite a change to see this desk go from a whole bunch of grim, dark Gothic terrain to these little puff balls, but they're a lot of fun. It's time to throw some paint on these. I airbrushed yellow over the fluffing to start to make it look more like a raging inferno and less like every stuffed toy I've ever bought for my dogs. Yellow around the base of the flame and then black over top of everything. This catches on the outside of the stuffing but doesn't land on the inside, making it look like there's a lot of depth to this smoke. Then I sprayed red onto the smoke from underneath so it looks like the red of whatever happens to be on fire is casting light onto the smoke. Look at all these controlled burns! Time to see what these guys look on the battlefield. Okay, now I've got some grimdark plush toys. Now these are perfect for fire, and they're also really nice and handy for the pop smoke stratagem. I've taken a couple of these in key places to make it look like this battlefield is currently on fire and burning down. And another thing I can do with these suckers is use some of these tanks that I'm not taking in this particular game. These will really help tell the story of this battle taking place. Just set one of these guys down and then have it be on fire. Now this is looking like something straight out of Dawn of War. Oh, I want more of these puff balls. This looks like a real battlefield. Not just a facsimile of a battlefield or the shapes of a battlefield, but it actually looks like a war zone. With the rubble, with the smoke, with the fire. This is actually getting me pumped to play on this board. There's two halves to a game of Warhammer. Assembling your models, getting them ready for the battlefield, but then there's actually playing the game, simulating a war. And this feels like a simulation of a war. All of this terrain is available to our Patreon supporters of the EOB terrain tier for the month of September, and all of the other little gubbins are available from your local arts and crafts store. Now this isn't just a war game about seeing who obtains the most points. Now it is a narrative story about who is gonna drive off the invading force and reclaim this territory in the name of the Emperor. Or filthy Xenos. Thanks for watching.